Hello and welcome back to the Rebel Entrepreneur, where we are talking with some really inspiring entrepreneurs who like to break the rules a little bit and finding out what that looks like, what it looks like behind the scenes, and how you can have success on an unconventional path. So I'm Gluskin, and today I'm so excited about our guest, Maia Macek, who's from New York. Hi, Maia. Thank you so much for being with us today. Maia's awesome. So she calls herself a personal liberation coach, which I love that name. Those words just feel so good. So she, the reason I like her so much and the reason I invited her on the show is because, you know, we're friends on Facebook, and she really puts herself out there. She's very vulnerable and open. She talks about not just her successes, but the struggles and, you know, what it feels like and to be a business owner and just life. And she's just really good. She walks her clients through the same process. So yay, I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I am thrilled to be here. This is such a great topic of conversation.
Yes. You're definitely a rebel entrepreneur. So let's talk a little bit about what you do. What is a personal liberation coach, and what does that look like?
Well, I mean, of course, I started off as a life coach, right? Because I had hired a life coach after years of therapy that took me as far as I felt like that could. And I thought, you know, I've watched stuff on Oprah. I've seen some books. What's a life coach? That carried me to the next level. And then I went back to school and studied. And what I started to discover when I was actually in sessions with clients, and you've probably experienced this, whether it's in writing or working with people, you just start drawing on ideas and you're not even sure where they're coming from, right? Yeah. And in my 20s, I had been a real seeker along the lines of Buddhism. And, you know, I was sitting in Zen monasteries in silence for days at a time and reading all these Zen books, but I'd pushed it off to the side and basically forgotten about it. And then years later, gone to life coaching school. And then I started to realize that the work I was doing with my clients was really about not just structuring your external life so that it looked good, but really restructuring your inner terrain so that you felt freer and more fulfilled and got to know who you really were. And as I was exploring again some of the old books that I read in my 20s, I realized that I had all of that Buddhist training had infiltrated.
Yeah.
And that like sort of non-attachment is one great concept, but basically finding personal liberation from, not from being human, because there's no escape from that, but from like all of the external structures and rules around how to do being human right on the outside and figuring out on the inside and finding that kind of freedom. So that's just what I realized I needed to call myself, as a personal liberation coach.
I love that. And I think it's like freeing ourselves from our minds and our thoughts, because sometimes we become prisoners in our own heads, and we get out of our heart and we get out of our soul. And our brain is great and it's, you know, wonderful tool, but it can also be a detriment, right? Because we start taking on these stories and, you know, who am I? Like that whole thing.
Absolutely. And we're trained in our culture that the mind is primary,
right?
That being rational is primary. And then we wonder, why don't I feel right? Why can't I make the decisions that really feel good to me? And it's because, like you said, you're not listening from your heart or your soul, or what I say, from your liberated self. You're just thinking it through. It's a great tool, like you said, but it's not what needs to be leading or driving our lives.
Right, because our brains are so logical and order. There's a time and a place for that, but sometimes when you're trying to be your true self, because our brains like tie these stories, like, you know, what your parents want you to do, or what your teachers want you to do, what you learned in school about fitting in, or, you know, all the rules out there, like you have to do it this way. So that's all that gets stored in here. And some of that information is useful, but some of it not so useful. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree. And I speak to people who just are so lost in their minds. And in Buddhism, they call it monkey mind, or we call it mind chatter. And that's why there's so much emphasis on mindset, right? Because we're so in our minds, we need to reprogram ourselves. But I think you're right. You can just get lost in there. You can also, though, get totally lost in your emotional life. And I've always been more of an emotional person, like an emotional dweller, than a rational thinker. I was an actress for years in New York City. I really pursued that as a career. So I was all about the emotions and less about the rational. I could actually have used some more of the rational along the way.
Right. You're an outlier, because most people
But here's the thing that I discovered. It doesn't matter if you're like a deep feeler, and you get completely caught in believing that all of your emotions are true. And again, you can have emotional reactivity the same way that you're describing that mental reactivity of, oh, my parents programmed this, or have this story that this happens and it means this. You can have that same experience outside of your thoughts and in your feelings, and both are traps if you're not able to separate from them, process the old wounds, heal what needs to be healed, and make conscious choices without just being simply driven by either your mind or your emotions.
Right. Yeah, there's good to have like a balance in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and what did this look like for you? Because I know we were talking before, and you had told me, you had, when you started your coaching business, you did things a certain way, and you kind of did what you thought you were supposed to do, and maybe what you saw other people do, and you're kind of feeling your way. And then you kind of had this epiphany where you're like, okay, I just want to be me. Like, what did that look like? What was the before and after, and why did that happen? And yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
I'll start with the last bit that you asked, like, why did that sort of a thing occur for me? And then I'll talk about what that looked like. But I think why anytime we make a radical change or even a small change is we get uncomfortable. And I recognize, like, I wasn't feeling right. And I think that everybody can relate to that. Again, whether it's like a negative mindset that keeps replaying, or just like a feeling in your gut or a tightness in your chest, like something feels off. And it was like a slow realization, because coming from being a client of a life coach who was phenomenal at what she did, I felt like, how am I going to be as good as she is? Like, there's no way I can be that good. She seemed to have this ability to know exactly what to say and to have this whole wealth of information. So I studied really hard. And like I said, I'd been a seeker and reading all the books for years. But what was really interesting is, as soon as I started working with clients, something intuitive really clicked in.
Yeah.
And it's that place, that I think everyone's experienced, but we don't really say that it's the primary mechanism by which we should run our lives in our culture. Again, like you said, it's the mind is primary, or sometimes the gut, but like intuition sounds so far out, and like, what is that? But I think all had the experience of, don't date that person, or do date that person. And I started to notice that the sessions with clients that were the most effective for them and the most satisfying for me, where I walked out feeling really energized afterwards, were the ones where I was really intuitively following my instincts.
Yeah.
And the best place that showed up for me was actually in my close friendships, where I was like, no bullshit, totally outspoken, ranting and raving whenever I felt like it, calling them out on things. And then in my, like, some of the videos that I did, or the writing that I did, or some of my coaching sessions, I tone it down, like I tame it. Mm-hmm. And there was a point in time where I had signed up to work with a coach who was really, expensive and had a big following. And it was like a year-long contract. And after 4 months, I felt like, I'm done. I don't even know what she can help me with anymore. And then I thought, oh no, like, am I falling down with my clients somewhere? Yeah. So I had like this come to Jesus moment with myself about, am I really ripping out all the stops as a coach?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. And because I was afraid of like looking weird, right, or saying something really spiritual or new agey. Yeah. And then when I did, my clients, I had one client who was like, I can't work with you anymore. That did happen. But it was such a relief, because I couldn't get through to her. It was great, actually. Yeah. And she and I are still friends. And then everybody else had like massive breakthroughs that are still impacting their lives today, like 3 years later. And so I slowly started to recognize that something was operating here, but I mean, I was new. I'd never been an entrepreneur before. And I think when you step out into something new, especially where like you're a public figure and you're supposed to be an expert.
They're going to judge me, and like I have to show up a certain way, and there's all this stuff going on in your brain. Like, yeah.
So that was definitely still operating. And then I paid a lot of money. Like, I trained with some of the biggest names in the industry, both as business coaches and life coaches. And I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with the work, which is why I turned it into a job for myself, because I love to do it. But there really was something that just kept feeling off to me. And I mean, it just built up, and I noticed that I didn't want to keep posting on Facebook, and social media is a place where I've really gotten a lot of my clients from. I'm also a writer. I just was like, I don't really feel like, what am I going to write about in my blog that has any meaning?
Did you have a friend like call you out on this? Was she like, this is not the real you? Yeah.
Well, what happened was, it was actually just a few months ago over the summer, I made a really big life change and decided just to leave my apartment. I didn't know where I was going to go. I was really following my instincts on that. And so my life started to look really adventurous again and exciting, and I like that. Yeah. But I was saying to my friend, I still don't care. I'm still held back from writing consistently or getting more clients or showing up on social media or making videos. All this stuff that I actually love to do, I wasn't really doing. And I thought, well, at first I thought maybe, how I'd been operating all those years, that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't able to show up fully, that I sucked because I wasn't able to write consistent Facebook posts and newsletters like everybody else was. And then I started to trust that feeling.
I just want to point out, because I think a lot of people can relate to that, is like when you are like trying to emulate someone else, or you're like in your head a lot and what am I supposed to do? And they're going to, instead of feeling with your heart and more connected with your purpose, like you get that, like, I'm not good enough. Like they can do it. Why can't I? And it can be like a downward spiral. So I think that's a good point because it happens to a lot of us. Yeah. And probably everyone's gone through that at some extent.
Well, and what's helpful about being a coach and having conversations with everybody about their innermost stuff is that I even recognize through working with my clients that I'm not alone in things, It's like, all right, that's everybody. And I love getting to share that with people too, because we all feel like, no, there's something wrong with me, And sometimes we can actually get a little like ego pride out of being a little screwed up, So, yeah. So, I mean, and I loved the idea of me being a rebel. I was actually attached to that idea, but I felt like I couldn't be a rebel to be successful as a life coach and an entrepreneur and a speaker and a writer and all of that. And I called a friend of mine up who has been with me over, I think we just counted 9 years of us, and we've met like through the personal development world. So she has seen me like the before, the during, the after multiple times. And she just said, like, she actually made fun of me. She said, when they can make really funny. She said, when I watch your videos, they're good. They're good. But you put on a little bit of this life coach persona, like, hi, I'm Maia. And she was like, that is not how you talk to me. It's not how I love to see you. She said, I want more pissed off Maia, and your tagline sucks.
Nothing like a good friend to tell you like it is, right?
Totally. I'm still thanking her for it. She was just like, and she does, I think, similar work to what you do, like copywriting, helping people find their message. Also a great friend to have. And so she was just like, she said, your new tagline, it's not like reclaim your gifts, live a liberated life, which is a really nice, it's nice. That's nice. And it covers what I do. But she said, your tagline is break the fucking rules, live a liberated life.
I love it. Yeah. And that is you. That's like the real you.
Well, that's so great that you say that, because that's what everybody has said, even my mother. And my mother, when I said to her, I don't think you're going to like the new tagline because there's cursing in it. She always gets a little, touchy about that. And so I called her up and I said, the new tagline is break the fucking rules. She said, oh, Maia, I can say fuck. And I was like, Mom. And she said, see, I just broke a mom rule.
It's so good that you're even like inspiring your mom, like on the spot to break the rules. That's awesome. And and not a lot of people can get away with saying fucking rules in their tagline. Like you have, like, because you can't force it. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to throw an F-bomb in my copy just to be provocative. Like, people sense it, but for you, it's real. Like that is your persona. That's who you are. That's your story. It's right. Like, it's like, oh yeah.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Cause I noticed with my clients, even I would be cursing. And I remember saying to a client once, like, I think I'm cursing more than usual. Like I curse, but I curse more than usual with you. And she was like, thank you. Like, I feel good about that. And that's how you know you're with your right people.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it actually took me a few weeks of like, can I really say that? I mean, I had conversations. I love Facebook. I love writing and I love engaging with people there, and it connects me to people like you. And I mean, you're in Florida, right? I'm in upstate New York. Yeah, I can tell. Like, it's snowing where I am in October and you're like, sleepless, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it is moving. Yeah. But I had to do some investigation about, like, you can really say, like, because I know you can say damn,
right,
but like the F word.
Right.
And then I started to see that there's a little flexibility with it. And then I thought, well, what if, like, I see this with my clients actually all the time. They're waiting for somebody else to do it first.
Right.
Then I'm like, don't wait. Like, because I can see in my clients, like, oh my God, you've got this amazing thing. Right. Do it. No, I don't know anybody else is doing it. That's why you should do it. So I had that conversation with myself. And then I ran into somebody who I think is really cool on Facebook. And she said, have you seen my tagline? And her tagline has the F-bomb in it. And I adore her. So I was like, all right, we're done.
Yeah. And I think the important thing about messaging is that it has to be authentic. So if it's real and that truly is who you are, how you feel, that's like, then it's going to resonate with people. If you, like I said, if you force it, people are going to get that too. Like, oh, she's just trying to like trying to stand out there and be whatever. Like anytime you're faking it, people feel it. Like there's a certain energy around it, and it's hard to explain. It sounds woo woo, but I mean, it's true. You can always sense if it's authentic, if it's real, and yours is real. So it's good. But I think,
first of all, I thank you for saying that, because it's always great to get corroboration. And I've also noticed, like, the people who are like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, see, I already liked you already. And the people who are like, well, I wouldn't. I'm like, yeah, you always seemed a little prissy to me. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
we attract the right clients too. So if someone's going to be offended by the F-bomb, they probably shouldn't be working with you anyway, because you know what I mean? It's just not a good fit. And that's what people need to not be afraid of in their business is it's okay if you turn off some of the wrong people, because you're going to really turn on like the right people. And if you're just kind of being vanilla and like not, just let's play it safe, you're going to get like mediocre, results too. Like if you like put yourself out there and really go for it, yeah, you might push a few people away, but the people you connect with are going to have massive like change. And it's going to be such a strong, powerful connection. So I
totally agree. I couldn't have said it better. And I really think that you're talking about that like woo-woo thing and the feeling like I'm totally woo-woo. I have come over the past several years to totally get that there's something unseen that's driving us and we have to trust it. Absolutely. And so, yeah, I love what you said.
Yeah. So good. So since you have kind of taken on this new persona, like not the new persona, because it's like your real deal, since I guess a better way to say it, since you've been more like not reserved, like this is me, like it or not, here I am. Like what has transpired in your life? Have you seen like any results from this or?
Yeah. Yes. Well, the one thing that I thought of when you were just talking about, then you'll get the people who are really like tuned in and fired up with what you do. I got myself more fired up. Yeah. So all of a sudden I started writing more, engaging more on social media, having more fun with what I was doing, looking forward more to the work. And then, interestingly, my sales conversations changed. I've studied with some of the big names in the industry and it's like, here's the thing about breaking the rules. It's like learning a language or learning how the structure of an essay or grammar or something. Learn the rules. Like, I'm not opposed to learning the rules. Like, let them infiltrate and then you improvise from there. Right? So I studied the rules, I learned the rules, but I also felt like I was white knuckling it through sales conversations. And there would be times when they were really great, but then there were also times when I felt like I was faking it or forcing it or literally reading from a script. And then there would be questions in the scripts that I was following where I thought, I can't say that. But she told me I should say that. He told me this is the right way to do a sales conversation.
Voice. Yeah, it's not your voice.
No, and it's not how I relate to people, and it's not how my real people want to be related to. Yeah. So my sales conversations changed, and people just my sales conversations started to go, and this happened yesterday, in fact. Again, it's happened now a couple of times in the past couple of weeks where people say, well, what's the program like? And I just tell them, and they go, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, well, aren't we supposed to discuss your money issues? Or if your husband wants you to?
I have my script. We have to go through it.
Yeah, they're like, all right, let's do it. So that was a really cool thing. And then also, some of the ways that I wanted to structure my sales conversations or points that I felt like were important to bring up to let people know how the consult was going to go, that changed, but it came from me. And I also had this moment because, there were times when I felt like I was faking it, I felt like, oh, I've got this because it's now true to me and it's coming from me. And I actually think that there's that place. It's like the training wheels come off. The rules are training wheels, and they help us understand how to relate to people and a little bit of infrastructure to life or business. And then you take them off and you find your own balance with it.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So my business certainly shifted. I will also say that I started to notice, I started to really pay attention to that place where I felt off. And even just in the past couple of weeks, I went through this feeling again of I should be really trying to build my business to the next level. And I thought, why am I not doing that? Suddenly I went from I need to jump to the next level of number of clients to wait, I'm not doing it. Maybe I don't want to be. And I spent some time with myself and I'm like, I know my sweet spot right now. It can change at any time, but it doesn't have to be linear. They train you you start off charging this and then the next for 5 sessions. And then the next time you do it, you charge this or you start, right? And so suddenly I got really tuned into what I actually wanted right now. And it looks now like my business, my coaching business is just one element of my life. And I'm now also starting a couple of other businesses. And I just got funding for between, I feel like I made $15,000 on Tuesday. Awesome. Just getting backing for another business venture that I'm working on with my family. Cool. And there was this satisfaction and fulfillment there. And I thought, I'm a life coach because I like life. And I want to live a full-bodied life, not just a best life that looks good on, to social media, but what do I love? I'm in upstate New York right now. I've got a wood fire going. I'm going to have to stack more firewood. I like that. And so part of freeing myself up to break the rules in my business freed me up to break the rules in my life. And I had met a man at a party 4 years ago when I was seeing somebody else. And he was like, I'd really like to date you. And I'm like, I don't live around here. I'm seeing somebody else. Great flirtation. Have a great life.
Right.
4 years later, I moved back here. And I'm like, I have been thinking about him on and off for 4 years. I have to set it up so that our mutual friend can connect us. And she wasn't able to do it. And I was like, how am I going to meet him? And I'm like, you're going to have to call him up. And I'm like, call him and be like, what? I've been thinking about you for 4 years. That's so risky. And the message, I actually call it, and to me, this is a non-denominational, and I was raised atheist, but I call it getting God aligned. When you can hear the voice of God, or however you want to say it, the voice of your intuition or the universe or whatever that is for you. But for me, I felt like I kept thinking, okay, if maybe this friend has a dinner party, we can get him there. And then I kept hearing this voice, call him. And I was like, I have a rule. I've always had a rule that the woman does not ask the man out. The man asks the woman out. And I had personal risk stories, like you mentioned before, from my childhood, rejection is bad. Anyway, we're very happily dating each other right now.
Yay. So you took your own role and you picked up the phone and yay.
I was scared. I was really, really scared. And after I left him a voicemail, and I'll tell you, I had prepared a voicemail message. And if I got him live, sometimes this is the other thing I want to say to people, have a sense of humor about it. Work with yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be awkward or messy. You know, I left in this voicemail and then I ran around the house screaming. You know,
was it a happy scream or like, oh my God?
No, it was like an elated, I can't believe I did it. Because that's the other thing. Have you experienced this where like you take a big risk and you don't even know if the results are in, but you feel victorious?
Yes, for taking it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So good. And I think it's because the fear, like the feeling of fear is always going to be there as a human. We can't ever turn it off. But it's so important if you want to like up level in life or business or just, you know, have a richer, fuller life, to just do it anyway. Feel the fear and be like, you know what, this feels kind of icky, but I'm doing it anyway. And once you get comfortable doing that, if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, like things just start to open up. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's fun. I mean,
on the other side of it, before. On the other side. I know I've had moments where I've shared like really vulnerable posts on like online, like Huffington Post and on my own blog. And I'm like sitting there like, or even doing my first Facebook Live, I was like, wait, push the button, like just push the button. It's like, and sometimes that is so ridiculous. You're like, okay, clearly you didn't die. It's fine.
You know what? But I love that you use the word ridiculous because that is actually, I'm in the process of rebranding from my old tagline to my new, and I'm setting up a new free offer. One of the exercises I'm giving, it's a 5-day free mini course that I'm designing. One of the exercises is how to do something ridiculous to get serious results.
That's cool. Yeah. And it's only ridiculous because we tell ourselves it is, but you're right. On the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because imagine if you never made that phone. You could have played it safe. You're like, I don't want to do this. And you could have never made that phone call and you would have missed out. You know, and there's so many opportunities. We all have these probably every day. Are we going to make that phone call? Are we going to take that step in our business? Or are we going to feel safe and comfortable? Are we going to put our true self out there? And you were talking a lot about, you know, just being your true self. And it's so much easier just to be yourself than to try to put on this persona and like, you know, am I doing it right? Am I talking right? Do I look, you know, it's like so much easier. Just be yourself. And people want that. Like we crave authenticity. Like, we sense bullshit. Like, you know, we want the real deal. And like, people just like open up and love you when you're like your real self. So
I agree. And I think it's a little bit of a, like there's sort of a before and after. Like I always think either you're getting in the bathtub, you're not relaxed when you get in the bathtub. You need like that 20-minute soak and then you get out of the bathtub feeling relaxed, or sitting in meditation or prayer. There's resistance or your mind is going. And then you break through to the other side of, oh, I love sitting in meditation or prayer. And I think it's the same thing with being your authentic self. You're like, I can't do that. It's too risky. It feels like you're going to get kicked out of the tribe or made fun of or rejected. And then once you break through, you have those moments of victorious feeling. And then you're like living on the other side and you don't want to go back because of what you were just describing.
You're like, how was there even another way? Like, why and how? But I mean, everyone does it. So I know there may be people listening to this now that haven't broken through to the other side yet. And they might be dancing with the idea. Like, you know I'm playing small in my business. I'm not really showing up as who I am. There's like a story I have and I'm holding back. I'm sharing it for fear of judgment. Like, you know, we all have these things. And so if someone's listening right now and they've got a little bit of that going on, like, what's your advice to them? Like, how do they go from where they are kind of stuck, kind of playing it safe, to like really being themselves and just putting it out there?
It's a great question. I think the process starts with getting to know yourself on a very elemental, basic level. And one of my favorite exercises to do with people is just getting familiar with what you like and what you don't like. Yeah. It's like, we don't even know what we like and what we don't like. I mean, you see it with people talking to their kids. There was a woman at the local farmer's market who makes sauerkraut, like fresh, raw sauerkraut. And she'll put out all these different tastings. And she said that little kids always come up and they just like want a free sample. Right. And their mothers will say, oh, you don't like that. And they're like, I don't. And she said kids devour this stuff and they love it. Right. And so we've gotten programmed, or you know, it's almost like we're not allowed to change our minds. Like we're told we don't like Brussels sprouts and then it turns out we love it, but our identities get enmeshed and our families put us in a box. Yeah. So there is a a big unprogramming process of figuring out what you really like and what you don't like. And I had a client once who, she was really unhappy, just really unhappy, and had a great relationship, was an artist, loved her career, didn't want to change that, but was really unhappy. And she wanted to connect to her joy, and she couldn't figure out what she liked to do. And she told me later that she must have taken about 40 baths before she was like, we have to find something else. There has to be something else I like. And then she realized that she liked gazing out the window, and she liked leafing through catalogs. And that slowly led to her realizing she'd been living in an apartment for 2 years that had a piano that she had never played.
Oh my goodness.
And then she started playing the piano, and then like joy started infiltrating, and like everything shifted for her in her life. Health stuff. She started to teach painting workshops that she'd been hemming and hawing about for years. She got invited to Spain from New York to teach a painting workshop. Like, things really opened up. So you look at something really simple and you think, how can something so simple?
Right.
It does. I want something big. No. Start with the simple, because figuring out what you like and you don't like, you get to know yourself, and you start to tap into your intuition, which we've already said is probably the best driving force for your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you start honoring what you like and what you don't like, saying yes to the right things and no to the other things, you get courage. And I mean, what more do you need at that point to build a business or a life that's really true to you? So that's what I would say to people.
And I think too, that's a good point. When you get tuned in to yourself, when you're like tuned into your intuition, your higher self, your purpose, when you start tuning into that, like I said, by noticing the small things, I think things start to open up. Once you start tuning in and taking action, even if they're small action, it's like the universe gets the message like, okay, she's ready, or he's ready. Like, they're making the move. And then people just start showing up, and opportunities just start showing up. And it's like, whoa, what's going on? And it's like, when you're in alignment, when you're like on the wrong path, things start to go wrong. And it's like, so when stuff in my world is going wrong, I'm like, okay, I'm not in alignment. I need to get still. I need to get quiet. I need to journal if it was going on here. Like, so
completely, because we're taught that you're supposed to adjust something on the outside,
right.
But it's not. It's like that magical thing that you were talking about, where you said it sounds a little woo-woo.
Yeah,
but you know what? Yes. And so what? Like, yeah, get tuned in. I mean, this client who I mentioned with the baths, she started to really see how she was overriding herself, and that she was doing it for this reason, that she believed that if she didn't do everything her friends or her boyfriend asked of her, that they wouldn't like her anymore, and that she wouldn't have friends or a boyfriend. So she was like going above and beyond what you would think was required in a friendship. And she overrode things with herself. Like, this is kind of a dramatic story, and I am not of the mindset that if you have a bad thought, a bad thing will automatically happen, but it's a dramatic story, so I'm going to share it. She really got that she needed to honor her likes and dislikes and listen to her gut instinct about what to do or not to do, and not listen to her mind when one morning she was like, I need to go for a bike ride because I need to get in shape, and I'm doing it. And she just had this feeling of, you're tired, stay home. She was like, no, damn it. You will get in shape. You will go for the bike ride, right? And not in a way of like creating discipline in a tough love way. It was really an overriding of this gut instinct and the acknowledgement that her body was tired. She was working really hard in the rest of her life. And so she went for a bike ride. She had a massive accident.
Oh, no.
And she was like, message received.
Wow.
And it's not like it's always that direct, but you know, have you heard the phrase, the what is it? The cosmic 2x4?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Right? When I heard that, I went, she got hit by the cosmic 2x4 because she wasn't listening to the smaller things. And so your soul is speaking to you and trying to put you on track, trying to align you in these little and big ways. So you have permission to listen. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, I'm just watching the time, and unfortunately we're coming to an end, but I could talk to you all day because this is like totally my jam. But I love your own personal liberation story. And I know that even like unconsciously, it's like, you know, inspiring to other people to liberate themselves. And if we could all just show up in the world as ourselves, like there would be like, I swear, like no more wars. Like I would just be so.
That's my belief. I believe that. Yeah.
But before we go, I want you to, you have a free opt-in or free download that people can get an assessment on how do you fulfilled? How do you really feel? What do you tell us about that? And like how they can find you on social and your website and all that good stuff.
Well, my name, Maia Macek. I've only found one other person in Brazil with that name, but I'm in the States. So I just go by my name, Maia Macek, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm really active on Facebook. And my website is maiamacek.com. And the free offer that I would like to offer to listeners of this is my assessment, How Free and Fulfilled Do You Really Feel? And it's not only an assessment that people say, oh my God, that was so accurate, but I think that it's the foundation for breaking a big rule that we've all been indoctrinated with, which is that people don't change and you can't heal. And what I like about this assessment is that it shows you where you are, and then it shows you how much further there is to go. And it's like any level. You could be really depressed and like, what's the next level? You could be, I'm good. What's the next level? You could be like, I'm awesome. Wait, is there a next level? It's like as if there's no, like, total personal liberation and expansion. And also included in that are some a tool, like a personal inquiry practice, to help you pick up and run with wherever you are, so that you can actually do something about, once you figure out where you are, like, ooh, how can I get started with what's next to find more freedom and fulfillment and personal liberation?
Awesome. That sounds awesome. So yeah, go to her website, or you can also go to the rebelentrepreneur.biz and click on Maia's face, and I'll link to her page, and you can just go from there too. So yay. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. And I look forward to more of what you're doing, because I think the work you're doing is awesome.
Me too. Thank you so much, Dawn. Great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Bye.